Cards to Yards, brought to you by the Adventure Stadium and the Adventure Begins, located on 1488, right next to a big old movie theater. I'm Chaz Graves, and here with me today, Preston Laird and Mark Blair.
All right, thanks, Chaz, for that introduction. As always, this is Cards to Yards, where we talk about all things sports and sports card related. I'm with Preston. We are at Adventure Stadium here at the top of Adventure Begins Comics and Games. Preston, what is going on with you lately?
Well, baseball's going on.
Yeah,
I'm loving me some baseballs. I miss the Astros because they're pretty much the only team that we have that's decent in
right.
the city of Houston. So I've been watching a lot of Astros. Haven't been keeping up with as much of the basketball playoff news as I should be, but I also paid a little bit of attention to the Tiger Woods saga this weekend too. It's a pretty interesting weekend for sports, that's for sure.
Well, in fairness to you as a Houston fan, the Rockets standings didn't change all year.
Yeah, right.
They pretty much started and finished in last place. But you know what?
Yeah.
Like I read a few articles within the last week that says they're doing the rebuild the right way.
Yeah.
And within 3 to 5 years, I think they're going to be, a media darling.
Absolutely.
So, at the very least. But, basketball is just all over the place and interesting right now. The Lakers, of course, are out.
Yep.
The Clippers really struggled in their first playing game against Minnesota. They get a second chance later, but there may not be a team from LA in the playoffs at all.
It's pretty astonishing.
And then we'll get back to basketball in a moment, but something else that happened is Tiger Woods played first, real tournament that he's played, I don't know, months, over a year.
Over a year, yeah.
Since that just devastating crash where they didn't know if he was ever going to play golf again.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, man, watching the I don't follow golf a whole lot, but watching the Masters and them come back and just be really happy to be back and play, that's probably like the happiest I've ever seen Tiger Woods.
Yeah, I mean, after what he's been through, it's a miracle that he can walk, from what I hear, much less swing a golf club and walk a 18-hole golf course multiple days. So I'm rooting for him. I've always been a Tiger fan. I know he's had his issues. We're all human, and he's no exception. So I'm glad that he's back on the map, and because it just invigorates the sport and makes it that much more exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he had an incredible first round. Incredible in the sense that he had like 3 bogeys, and then he followed it up with like 2 birdies in a row, and then ended up one under on the first day. He did make the cut, which was very impressive given the situation. But then on Saturday and Sunday, flailed a little bit. Probably his body caught up to him.
Fatigue.
I think he was 6 over both consecutive days for the first time ever.
Yeah.
And, the surprise guy out of that, well, not surprised because he's ranked number one, Scottie Scheffler. But you never know with a guy who's never won a major before. And he came out on fire the first 3 days. Struggled on Sunday, and at the same time, Rory McIlroy was having like a career day. He had like a 8 under.
That's unheard of for the Masters.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's been tournaments in the Masters where, they were lucky to be on par.
Oh yeah,
the top 10 players. So
right.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing that he had such a day at the Masters. Yeah.
But because of that hot start, the first 3 days, Scheffler was able to finish 10 under and won his first major and first Masters.
Yep.
Obviously, so he joins the Green Jacket Club, solidifies that number 1 rating.
Probably won't be his last either.
No, but I think whenever something like this happens where, you have young guys who are playing really well, but now you have Tiger coming back. It just really invigorates the hobby. And it also reminds you the ebbs and flows of it, like how big golf was when Tiger was at his best, and then just what, a company like Upper Deck signed him, and I think he's been with them ever since. But just sort of like the level that a guy like that takes collecting to, and just that whole the collector environment, putting that at the top of pop culture. And speaking of pop culture, we always try to hit on stuff that may affect the industry. And this was announced probably a little late last year, but it's come back up in the news as it's almost ready to go. Golden Inc., which is primarily like an auction house that specializes in sports and sports memorabilia and collectibles, like higher end cards, way higher end cards. They signed a deal with Netflix a little while ago. And what's interesting about that is that the show's going to follow around Ken Goldin, who obviously is the founder of Golden. Now, this guy has been hustling for years, like going back to like selling packs of cards on QVC and stuff. So, and in recent years, he's had celebrity investors, the likes of Mark Cuban and Mark Wahlberg, and he actually sold the majority stake in his company, but he still is running it. And so this show is going to follow him around just like Pawn Stars, right?
Yeah.
And I think Pawn Stars has done a lot for the collectibles community, just like having certain things come to light of like, oh, comics and cards are worth that much? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and again, we know that, oh, no, that's a super rare circumstance. Like, not everyone can find Action Comics #1, the first appearance of Superman, in their drywall.
Yeah.
You know, when they're redecorating their garage or whatever. And that's kind of like the kind of stuff Pawn Stars stumbles on. But as big as cards have gotten, I think this is a good sign as far as the mass population. Because I think when you're in something, you always kind of overshoot the prediction of how many people are into it.
Yep.
And there's a whole lot of people not into baseball cards and collectibles.
Well, sure, yeah. But this is just going to carry momentum into the hobby. I mean, it's just going to just keep on going, because a show like this, not only is it going to rope in the existing collectors, but it's certainly going to create a whole new segment of the population that's going to get into collecting because of the show. As you know, the Formula One show that they've got on Netflix did for the sport, I think this will do the same for pretty much all of card collecting. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be very exciting.
And Netflix is still the most subscribed to streaming service, even as we're in the middle of these streaming wars. So that will be very interesting. And collectibles that are at an all-time high.
Yeah.
Heritage just this week sold a Superman #1. It was an 8.0 from CGC for $5.3 million.
Oh my goodness!
So crazy. You know what's crazy is that doubled the sale of Superman's first appearance.
Yeah.
I guess just because Superman #1 is more rare, especially in that condition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than Action Comics #1, but a couple Action Comics like 7.5s sold for like half that price. But that market's on fire too. But
Yeah,
but that's the kind of thing, you know, people want to see and are most interested in. Obviously, like the dream. You know, finding that comic or baseball card that serves as a lottery ticket. So
yeah.
I think that's going to go well with Netflix and be some interesting drama and probably insight into this whole thing.
Maybe we can get them to come by the shop one day.
Yeah. And speaking of drama, NBA playoffs. I don't know if you've been able to follow it that much. And again, the Rockets haven't been too much to follow.
Yeah.
Although, can't wait for the draft lottery, though.
Heck yeah.
That's going to be
we got the
interesting.
possibility of what, three?
Yeah.
Three
Yeah.
lottery picks
Yeah,
possibly?
based on all the willings and dealings, and there's all these like
Final
rights
records
protected and all this stuff. So we'll see once that gets here. But so they started this play-in tournament, you know, a season or two ago.
Yeah.
And essentially our whole lives, you know, that we've been following sports, you have 8 teams from the West and 8 teams from the East. Well, now it's 10, but the 9 and 10, they play one game, and whoever wins that plays the loser of one game played between the 7 and the 8.
Yep.
Right? So we had the possibility of Brooklyn not even making it, which would have been crazy. The Lakers finished outside of the 10. But the playoffs is pretty much set, and as we said a couple weeks back, Suns look unstoppable.
Yeah, they
right?
do. They do.
But we'll just go over real quickly how the seedings worked out. And again, the 8 seed is still up for grabs as we're recording this, because the play-in, those have sort of played out like people thought. Cleveland ended up losing to Brooklyn, so Cleveland hosts one more game. against Atlanta now because Atlanta took care of business. Oh boy, did they against Charlotte. I mean, Charlotte looked like a 10 seed, but again, you're going to have teams that aren't really deserving of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then in the West, Minnesota really handled the Clippers, so we could, again, maybe not have a team from LA in the playoffs at all, because now the Clippers are going to host the Pelicans. Also a surprise, but they beat the Spurs in that other 9-10 game. So from the top Western Conference, we have Suns versus the play-in game winner, as discussed, and then 2-seed Grizzlies versus 7-seed Timberwolves. Could be interesting, but I think if John Morant comes back in this series, I think the Grizzlies are going to take that fairly easily. Number 3, Warriors versus number 6, Nuggets. Again, if they can stop Djokovic, Warriors should get through, but you never know. And then Mavericks versus Jazz. Now, that one is going to be interesting. It's a 4-5, so you know it's already going to be a competitive series. But Luka Doncic, he was hurt in the last game of the season, and he was supposed to miss that game because he got a 16th technical foul. Yeah. But they got that rescinded, and it's sort of like, well, be careful what you wish for, because he ended up playing and then getting hurt. And then now on top of that, if he gets a technical foul in the playoffs, I would assume that carries over from regular season. Yeah, he'll be suspended. And now he's in risk of missing, a game in the playoffs. Yeah. And then in the East at the top, as they were most of the season, we have the Heat, again, versus the 8th seed, which is yet to be determined. And then Celtics-Nets for the 2-7 matchup. The 3-6 matchup is Bucks versus Bulls, so we'll see if the Bucks can repeat from that 3rd spot. And then 76ers versus Raptors at 4 versus 5. Yeah. Who do you like coming out of the top of each of those conferences?
Man, I'm really, really loving the Suns, but the Warriors, I'm telling you, Clay just seems to be getting his feet under him. I mean, he's had some monster games in the last month. I mean, he had, I think, 42 the other night. So I think Golden State's kind of peaking at the right time. They're playing good ball. Personally, I think it's between the Warriors and the Suns in the West. In the East, I'm really liking the Bucks. I think the Bucks have a good shot at going back to the finals again. I mean, the Heat, playing good ball all season, but with the Bucks' playoff experience and the core that they've got, I have a feeling the Bucks are going to come out in the East. What are you thinking about?
I think the Celtics are the most cohesive team, but I don't know if the talent is there, and we'll find out right away if the whole Kyrie Durant dynamic is going to be too much for them to handle. And then, oh, by the way, Ben Simmons, the guy they traded Harden for, hasn't played yet, so we'll see if he's ready. And then speaking of Harden, I mean, that 76ers-Raptors matchup will be tough because, again, I think 76ers have a world of talent with their top 2 guys, Joel Embiid and James Harden. But then you look at a team like the Raptors, and they've stuck around through all these trades and free agency leavings, and
they're still there.
Yeah, removed a few years ago from winning the championship, and then Kawhi Leonard took off to L.A. So it'll be interesting. I think that's a complete toss-up. I could even see the Nets going, which would be crazy. In the West, I don't see anyone beating the Suns. I think they're going to go back again to the NBA Finals, and we'll see what happens. But
my heart's with the Suns. I mean, I lived in Phoenix for 7 years, and they're my second favorite team, so I was a little heartbroken when they didn't take it last year. So I'm kind of rooting for Chris Paul. He's been in the league for a long time, no titles. Love that team. Just such a good core of young players with Paul. They're surrounding Paul with. So I'm rooting for the Suns, but we'll see what happens.
Well, I refuse to root for the Mavericks, so
right.
They're out. I don't. the Warriors have won a lot in recent years. I think if the Grizzlies, Nuggets, or Suns won, I think those fan bases are deserving of that.
Absolutely.
And begrudgingly, I'll say Utah, but that bad blood between the Jazz and the Rockets goes back.
Yeah, it does.
2 or 3 decades now. We'll see. This is it took forever to get here, and the playoffs are just going to fly by. And speaking about taking forever to get here, baseball's back.
Yeah.
We were, a month or 2 ago worried about not having a season. They came together, went to spring training, getting a full 162 games in. I'm such a complainer when it comes to the Astros, but I was really disappointed that they did not sweep the Angels.
Yeah.
And especially in the game they lost was the one Verlander pitched for the first time in eons, right?
Pitched pretty darn good too.
Pitched really
Yeah,
well.
just no run support.
No run support, and that's kind of an early sign, a little bit worrisome. I'm wondering if Correa leaving is going to affect them more than I thought. Because the last couple of games, they've only got a run or two.
Well, Pena, man, has been
He has.
pretty solid for a rookie, and
Yeah.
defensive wise, he's decent. Offensive,
Yeah.
I think he's opening up some eyes.
Oh, for sure.
We're talking about $30 million difference in salary versus what Correa was getting. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm feeling better and better about the Correa situation the more and more I watch him play, because that frees up money to maybe throw another arm or two in the bullpen
we need it.
or the starting rotation.
Yeah. I just worry about the stuff that analytics can't, see on paper.
Yeah.
Just the clubhouse effect, the clutch play, all that.
Yeah,
'Cause-
and I think that Astros are notoriously slow starters when it comes to offensive numbers. Most seasons, the past 5-6 years, their bats have not been on fire by any means, but they've still got a winning record. They're 4-2 now, so the bats are going to come around. I mean, Kyle Tucker, he's notorious. He's always slow the first 4 to 6 weeks of the season, then he really ramps it up. So I think if we can remain up there in the top two for the first month and a half, I think we're going to be okay. Yeah.
No, I think so.
With abbreviated, spring training.
Oh, yeah.
Not as much batting practice. So I think pitchers are going to have an advantage in the beginning of the season. So.
Oh, it'll be interesting. I mean, baseball is always fun. There's a lot of deep dive analytically, statistically going on. A lot of players changing. I think you are correct in the Correa assessment. Analytically, I think it was going to be a law of diminishing returns. Yeah, he might have more power and more of the flashier stats, but I think in this lineup, I think Pena's going to do fine.
Yeah.
And also, maybe with Correa gone, someone like Bregman finally steps up as the guy. So we'll see about
He's
that.
started out pretty good. He's hitting over 300, isn't he? Somewhere
Yeah,
around
but
there?
I need to see those like 8, 9, 10 run games again.
Yeah. we will.
Especially against teams I don't like because it's fun. And speaking of teams that don't like the Astros, the Dodgers, and I know it's like okay, you're an Astros fan, be careful what you say about the Dodgers, but we got to talk about this because
Yeah.
this is by far the most controversial thing that's happened in this short season so far.
Yeah.
Clayton Kershaw comes back for the first start in a while, obviously, first start of the 2022 season. Through 7 innings, he's got 80 pitches, he's got 13 strikeouts, and oh, by the way, on top of that, no walks, no errors, no hits, also known as a perfect game. How do you assess that?
I assess it as it's the first couple of weeks of the season, abbreviated spring training. Pitchers didn't get their normal amount of workload in, so their arms are not going to be as strong. I don't disagree with the decision. I really don't. I don't think Kershaw disagreed with the decision. Even he admitted as much, that he didn't have his best stuff, and he probably knows himself better than anybody else out there. So if the pitcher doesn't have an issue being pulled after 7 perfect innings, then I don't see why anybody else would have an issue being pulled. It's not like LeBron sitting out a game just because he's sitting out a game. I mean, this guy went out there, he did his job, he threw 7 stellar innings. They don't want to risk long-term injury, so I think the pertinent thing was to take him out at that time. So even the Astros starter pitchers have had short leases, except for Fromber the first day, and he went 7 innings, which was an absolute shock. So yeah, I mean, it's not a shock. It's not really a surprise. I can understand the disappointment from Dodger fans, of course, but long term, I think it was the right decision. But what do you think? I can tell you disagree a little.
Yeah, I disagree. There's been like 200,000 games in the history of baseball and only 22 perfect games, and this guy's like, on the brink of Hall of Fame, and he has a no-hitter under his belt. So like a sportscaster said, it's like if it was a no-hitter, big deal, pull him out, and then your bullpen gives up a hit. Oh well, but like perfect game, that's not going to happen.
I
again
probably would have
in
thrown
this
him out
stage of
one more
his career.
inning.
Yeah,
Just to see.
Because if he gives up a hit, then this is his own volition.
It's immediate yank. Yeah.
Obviously, if the bullpen, after 7 when Kershaw gets pulled, if the bullpen was able to get the next 6 outs, no one's even talking about it.
Yep.
Well, I mean, they're like, oh, first perfect game in X amount of years and first one involving Kershaw. But
the Astros had a combined no-hitter a couple years ago with 6 different pitchers or 5, something like that. So it can happen.
I would have left him in. I would have left him in.
History is nice. It's nice to see history made.
But we'll also see like what he looks like in his second start, because if he ends up having like 25 starts, then it was the right call, right?
Yeah.
But I say go for it.
Yeah.
And speaking of go for it, I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's talk about new and upcoming releases.
Yeah. So this week we've got a few new products in. We've got Encased Football, super hot. Ultimate Collection Hockey for all you hockey guys out there. Contenders Basketball came out this week as well, Panini Contenders. Next week, we've got Phoenix Football. We've got Mosaic Road to the FIFA World Cup, which is going to be phenomenal because it's going to have all the stars from all across the globe in one product.
Yeah.
So that's going to be incredible for the soccer fans out there, including myself. We've also got Donruss Racing coming next week. That should be pretty hot because racing just keeps getting more and more popular. And then we've got Topps Champion League Soccer coming out next week also. So it's a big week for soccer. We've also got a break coming up the following week on the 22nd, 4 p.m. We've got Phoenix and Mosaic Football. Hobby boxes, April 22nd, 4 o'clock, $50 a spot. We still have a handful of spots, so get your spots for our break. And, of course, we're always accepting HGA. HGA is going to be announcing some huge news in the next day or two, so keep your ears open and eyes peeled for that information. And bring your cards in and let us take a look at them and get them slabbed and looking real pretty for you. So love to have you bring your cards in so we can get them slabbed. Other than that, I think... that's about all we've got going on in the stadium the next week or so.
Yeah, well, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's way more coming out than I thought, but I guess you talk about...
And Bowman Baseball, hello. That's like your pride and joy.
Yeah.
That's going to be coming
that's
out
everyone's pride and
not
joy.
next week, but the following week.
Yeah.
So the next time that you guys see us, then Bowman Baseball is going to be here. So I know that's going to be flying off the shelves. I cannot wait. So I think that we're going to have, what is it going to be, Wanderers Bowman first?
I guess Bowman rookie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the rookie, yeah.
Yeah. Because I guess the
Bowman first already came out.
Yeah, the first is usually annotated when they're in the minors, right?
Yeah.
But this will be like, his
official
first rookie and tons of prospects in there. And it seems like every year they add a new color for the rainbow for collectors out there.
Yeah.
So, and always just a really sought after product, like probably more sought after than the flagship, because the flagship is like that staple that's kind of always there. You go back to the well and it's fun and cool, and
Bowman is the king of baseball.
But Bowman, smaller base set, which is nice for me, but the signed rookie stuff, the numbered, all the different color parallels, it is usually pretty crazy. Well, Preston, thanks for discussing all that with me. And man, that's a lot coming out. I was sort of thinking with just like a baseball mind, and then you reminded me of like the Donruss Racing and the Mosaic FIFA, which is Mosaic's just an incredible looking set. People love those shiny silver cards.
Heck yeah.
And they have like the crazy prismatic refractors and stuff like that.
Yep.
Well, we'll wrap up the show with a glossary term, and today's glossary term is hanger box. Because if you're someone who's getting back into the hobby, you're going to be like, what is all this? Blaster box, hanger box, hobby box, retail box, mega box, super box, like everything. Value box. Everything that comes out is a different type of box. We're going to make it real simple. Hanger box is a big pack, usually encased in cardboard packaging, box-like, but it's usually just a pack. And you guys have a lot of those in the store.
We do.
Anywhere between, I don't know, 20 to 70 something cards, depending on the product line. You in recent months and years, they add value to these hanger boxes, usually different parallels that you can only get in them.
Yeah.
You guys have a few years worth of selection of those.
Absolutely. And you know, going to the mega boxes, something they've started doing this year for the first time, Mosaic football hangers, is they're including case hits in hangers.
Really? Wow.
Which was normally only for hobby. So it makes it that much more exciting when you're breaking hangers and you're opening hangers, because there's a chance that you can get a super rare card that they normally weren't including in those particular sets in the past. So hangers are getting better and better.
Oh yeah, and I mean, breaks are fun in any way, but hangers are usually pretty affordable.
Yep.
And now you can get the big hits in there.
Yep.
All right, so that is it for Cards to Yards from the Adventure Stadium. For Preston and myself, Mark, back to you, Chaz.
Well, gang, that's all for today's episode. So join us next week. Cars to Yards, brought to you by the Adventure Stadium, and the adventure begins. Again, we're located off 1488 and Woodland Square Boulevard. See you next time.